So it's worse than I heard. Kamala camp and Biden camp are bitter for many reasons. Kamala doesn't take advice from the Biden advisors. Remember, don't say weird. That was them. Fired several. Biden is bitter. He got kicked out. And Harrison is a Biden guy. So the DNC also dislikes Kamala. Remember, DNC failed with Gaza Speaker Harrison. So he's probably fired if she wins. Yeah, I think obviously internal division here. Okay? But we already know that he is an immoral scumbag. Okay? We already know that the Democratic Party is overseeing and managing this. What is shocking to me is that on top of the overseeing of this managed, that they are trying to slap on a liberal optics-focused veneer, is that they are simultaneously throwing for the election. I was talking to a liberal friend of mine who's working with some super PACs at this moment, okay, for doing turnout and trying to do door knocking operations. And one of the conversations that I was having with him, because he is not as worried about the polls because he keeps repeating, no, not Austin. Just stop trying to figure out. These are my normie friends, okay? You will never know who they are. I will never show them on camera. Shut up. Listen, I was talking to a normie friend of mine who is currently working with super PACs, okay? And the conversation that we were having, this back and forth that we were having over it, he basically said stuff like, oh, well, these are like Obama-era consultants. Like, they know what's going on. I'm not too worried. They actually have a lot of money. They're very excited. You know, they're excited about the war chest. Like, I think their internal polling must be good. Otherwise, they're not like, it doesn't seem like they're too worried. And I was like, dog, they are worried, okay? They are definitely worried, and they should be worried. Stop assuming that they're brilliant and doing everything for a good reason, okay? Stop assuming that they are doing something for a good reason. They are not, okay? Having said that, okay? One conversation that we had, because he was like, I finally was able to like wear him out and explain to him the situation. And I was like, listen, dog, like, this is not great. He was like, so what do you think could change the tide before November? And I told him one thing. There's only one thing that could truly change the dynamic of this election and swing polling in the opposite direction in the minds of a lot of undecideds. And that is if at any step, because they can't turn around from their sentiment. They're already too invested in that. They've already locked themselves into this. The only thing that can maybe change the outcome of this election if an arms embargo comes and Israel is brought to heel and is made to concede and forcibly pushed into a ceasefire. If that call comes in, if Brandon makes the boss call and actually changes the dynamic of this, there are still going to be plenty of people who are like you have my family, I'm never going to vote for you. But a lot of people would look to that, and the media coverage that you would get from that would potentially swing this election in your favor. That's the one thing. That is the one thing that they could do. And lo and behold, what did Brandon do? The next day, he's like, 30 days, arms embargo is coming in 30 days. You can starve them for 30 days. I had a lot of faith in Biden to do the right thing once Kamala took over. The pressure was off him. I'm here to admit I was wrong. You were right. And now I think Biden is truly bitter and actually dislikes Kamala's surge. I'm full doom on Biden and he wants to hurt Kamala. There is no real reason for Biden to come out and put a arms embargo or a red line on the table with a 30-day timeline that moves the needle past the election. There is literally no reason unless you are trying to throw, okay? The election is before 30 days, chat. It is before 30 days. Him saying you have 30 days to starve out the northern Gazan population beyond the immorality of the situation makes no decipherable, discernible sense from an bloodless electoral calculus, okay? You are deliberately throwing. It would have been better if he said nothing. Do you understand? If he had said nothing and kept saying, we're working tirelessly around the clock, it would just be the same old saying that you have a red line that will be enforced after the election is done is literally the most insane thing I have ever heard. That is wild. He's hoping the empty promise swings the polls, but we aren't stupid. No, I think he is throwing. I'm not even saying, I'm not even going to go. I'm telling you right now, he is throwing. I think he hates Kamala Harris. I think he hates the Democrats for taking away his toy. And he's like, I'm going to up the bag. I love Israel. Am Israel hijack. I don't give a. It's insane. It is incomprehensible. I think they're saying that the aid should start going in now and report of it will be in 30 days. Yes, dog. That is an enforcement and a red line that comes after the election. If you could say 30 days, you could say tomorrow. You understand that? Do you understand that? You could say tomorrow. I'm enforcing this. You could have said that yesterday. I have a friend working at the DNC, and from what I've heard, your assessment is correct. There's bad blood in the White House. This is truly a spiteful, hateful thing that you do, okay? Like, because it obviously is insane. Like, it is not only immoral, but it also directly puts you at odds with it directly puts you at odds in terms of like openly putting it out there that you recognize that Israel is human rights. Okay. You are openly recognizing that Israel is human rights and saying you got 30 days to stop human rights. So that in and of itself is psychotic. Okay. That is psychotic, but we expect that from Biden. He loves a baby. He is number one at baby. He loves it. Okay. 100%. 100%. The fact that he said I will do an arms embargo after the election is only spiteful. It's only spiteful. That's it. It has to be. There is no discernible reason for him not to say you have 5 days. You have 1 day until you fix the situation. We recognize that this is a human rights. That acknowledgement alone is a direct activation of the Leahy Law. Okay? That's it. America is supposed to, we know that America is a consistent of international law. We know that already, right? But this stuff is in the books, and there's a reason why they play this song and dance where they're like, oh, well, we don't recognize that Israel's human rights law, even though our own internal data shows that they are. Like, oops, USAID gave me an internal memo, and I just kind of ripped it apart and lied to Congress. I'm Anthony Blinken. They do that kind of song and dance because there is obviously supposed to be some kind of like something that keeps liberals together, something that makes liberals believe that there is like rules around this sort of thing, right? You can't go too far ahead. You have to play the song and dance, okay? So it's worse than I heard. Kamala camp and Biden camp are bitter for many reasons. Kamala doesn't take advice from the Biden advisors. Remember, don't say weird. That was them. Fired several. Biden is bitter. He got kicked out. And Harrison is a Biden guy. So the DNC also dislikes Kamala. Remember, DNC failed with Gaza Speaker Harrison. So he's probably fired if she wins. Yeah, I think obviously internal division here. Both parties don't necessarily care about like the humanitarian needs of, they don't really think that Palestinians are human beings worthy of dignity and freedom. Like that part is obvious, because if they did, they would be screaming. At least one party would be like, what the fuck is going on here? This is completely unacceptable. But they are losers all the way down. Okay. It's all theater. They never even cared about optics. Yes, it is all theater. And that's why you do care about the optics. Okay. Democrats might come out of an immediate embargo now because this them completely. If they want to win, they should do it like they should have before. Yes, for months and months, I have said this. And if this happened one day, you would obviously, immediately, you would see every single commentator on CNN and MSNBC speaking like they literally have been locked in and tuned into the HasanAbi broadcast for the past 12 months. Okay. Oh, we knew it. Oh, how gracious, how beautiful, how bold. It came too late, but it still happened. Blah, blah, blah. The fact that she's kowtowing even further than Biden instead of pulling to the left and winning with the promise of an arms embargo is insane to me. So we'll see. We'll see. The only way that Kamala gets out of this polling hole that she's currently found herself in is if she, somehow, with some stroke of luck, with a Hail Mary campaign, gets the Brandon camp to like actually force Israel to do a ceasefire. That's it. That's it. Why is Biden talking about 30 days when he won't be president either way? Why didn't they make Kamala promise? No, he'd be lame duck. He is still the president. He's still the president until January 20th. So why is this bad for Kamala? I missed that part. What do you mean, why is this bad for Kamala? There is one thing that could potentially... Okay, let's dial this back for a second, okay? Boom. I have the DC wonk hat on, okay? Forget everything. I am now a bloodless sociopathic monster who only cares about woke liberalism. I love the Democratic Party, okay? Imagine me as someone totally different. I'm Jamie Harrison, okay? Now listen, as Jamie Harrison, I'm looking at the polls, okay? I'm a Jamie Harrison type. I'm looking at the polls. I'm seeing that over the past month, undecideds have started swinging in Trump's direction. And what has happened in that past month? Donald Trump has done the media campaign. He's been going after all of these other avenues where he could possibly pick up a lot of low propensity, mid propensity voters in the podcast circuit, yada, yada, yada. But all of a sudden, the momentum from the Kamala camp has completely been cut short. And now the momentum is swinging in Trump's direction. Okay? Momentum is now swinging in Trump's direction. I look at the avenues of communication. What do I have in front of me? I can't say anything about immigration because I'm locked in. I've spent tens of millions of dollars talking about how I am going to be the one that annihilates the migrants with my border wall, and Trump is silly and goofy and hypocritical, yada, yada, yada. So I can't make a massive communications change on that front. Okay? I've already destroyed that. I can't do that. I'm seeing Black and Hispanic men under a certain age slipping dramatically to the Trump camp. I'm looking at Donald Trump beating my campaign on low and mid propensity voters by 9 points. I'm, on the other hand, beating Donald Trump with high propensity voters by 4 to 5 points. That's not great. There are far more mid to low propensity voters out there by numbers, and the percentages are higher. So it's not a good situation for me at all. All signs point to alarm bells ringing, okay? The campaign is on fire. We have a massive war chest. We have pumped tens of millions of dollars specifically into Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and many of these other important states. And yet the needle hasn't moved in my direction. It's moved in the opposite direction. That means the message that I'm putting out there is not working. Okay? It's not working. Now, there's one thing that I have in my power that I could do. There is one weapon that I can wield here. Because like the abortion stuff, it's working, but it's clearly not enough to swing the polls, right? There's one thing I do have though. Americans broadly want this Israel thing to be wrapped up. That's it. It could be for a multitude of different reasons, but the overwhelming majority of Americans want a ceasefire. That's it. The majority of Republicans want a ceasefire. Okay? That is a massively consequential and massively popular thing that I could do. And if I do it now, there isn't enough time or money that these big moneyed interests can attack me on, right? Because right now, if she did that, how much money could AIPAC spend against Kamala Harris on the general election? How important could that be for Americans when obviously Americans don't give up and they actually like a ceasefire in Israel, right? There is not enough time and not enough money to counter this objectively popular thing that she could do. So the only weapon that they have in their hands to change this trajectory is not even a communication, a difference in communicating like the humanity of the Palestinians or the humanity of the Lebanese people. Like that is too far gone. It's done. You've lost. You have to make actionable change and immediately do a full-throated media campaign to be like, we did that. You wanted it. We did that. We are the ones who did that. Okay? That's it. That's it. Surely AIPAC money wouldn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because this is a general election. It's an objectively popular policy that like tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans are on board with. And last but not least, there isn't enough time for AIPAC to cut anti-Kamala ads, especially when Kamala could counter that with positive messaging surrounding this issue, okay? It's not necessarily about separating herself from Biden. It's far too late for that. It's about forcing Biden's hand to push for a ceasefire And it seems like Biden is not interested in doing that. Okay. Common sense control, popular. Common sense noting, popular. Yeah, except common sense noting is more popular than common sense control right now. It is the 5th priority amongst Americans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th one is Israel, Palestine. According to the NBC poll we looked at, Kamala Harris is losing to Trump by 15 to 18 points on that issue. They think Americans, for some reason, possibly because Trump is not currently in charge overseeing this, think that Trump would be better on Israel. And that's not because they think that Donald Trump is this. They think that Donald Trump is saying that he's going to continue that. And that's why. Because that is inconsistent when you look at the actual polling numbers on the issue of the ceasefire, where majority Republicans want a ceasefire as well. Genuine question. Can you explain why Republicans want a ceasefire? A little confused on that. What do you mean? Because Americans fancy themselves to be anti-war, okay? No matter how aggro they are, they still personally think that war is bad. They think the top of the hour ad break is bad. They want to defend against that. They think that, they just don't like it. They don't like war. They don't like watching ads. They like subscribing, okay? Here's the 3-minute ad break now, by the way. You can subscribe for free or get a gifted sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Hey, Top Off 520. Thank you for the prime. Benign Burger. Thank you for the 20 community gifted subs. And Comrade Che, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. The embargo letter leaked. Yeah, we're going to read the embargo letter in a second. Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris on handling Israel-Ukraine wars. Wall Street Journal poll shows. Anyway, let's continue with this.
And that we needed to see Israel implement changes. They did make changes. The changes that they made caused humanitarian assistance to increase. We got up to somewhere between 300 to 400 trucks going in on some days. But the thing that the secretary also made clear at the time is that the increase couldn't be a one-off, that it needed to be sustained. And what we have seen over the past few months is that the level of humanitarian assistance has not been sustained. In fact, it has fallen by over 50% from where it was at its peak. So the secretary, along with Secretary Austin, thought it was appropriate to make clear to the government of Israel that there are changes that they need to make again to see that the level of assistance making it into comes back up from the very, very low levels that it is at today.
And the consequence, if they don't do that, is what?
So I'm not going to speak to that today. Obviously, we made clear when we released our report that was mandated under National Security Memorandum 20 that there are provisions under U.S. law that require us to make certain certifications, and to make those certifications, we have to see that Israel is not arbitrarily denying humanitarian assistance, making it into. When the secretary made his conclusions under that report in April, he did so based on the changes that we had seen them put into place and the increased levels of humanitarian assistance. But of course, those levels of humanitarian assistance have to be sustained.
Yeah, but what's the consequence?
There are implications under U.S. law, under policy, that I'm not going to speak to here, largely because we hope that Israel makes the changes that the secretary outlined in the letter. We have seen Israel make changes before, and when they make changes, humanitarian assistance can increase. And we have seen Israel just in the past few months work with humanitarian organizations to implement a polio vaccination campaign inside. So we know that it's possible to get humanitarian assistance into. We know it can be done. We know that the various logistical and bureaucratic obstacles can be surmounted. And so it is incumbent upon the government of Israel to surmount those challenges and get assistance in.
I mean, you say that there are implications to it. And obviously, under U.S. law, that's assistance. Is there specific assistance that come under scrutiny?
So I don't want to deal with any hypotheticals. You are right that it's just a plain reading of U.S. law. If you look at the provisions of U.S. law, that we are required to conduct assessments and find that recipients.
Damn, where was that earlier, bro? What the? That's crazy. That's crazy. Turns out there is a law, huh? Yeah, there is no way to read this to make sure. Force Israel. Think carefully about the vibes you are bringing to the function. Immoral. He also seemingly. I'm saying there is no way to read this other than Biden being spiteful and throwing the election. We know he's an immoral dare. He also seemingly hates Kamala enough to make sure she loses. If this timeline was overnight, they could force Israel to commit to a ceasefire. I need that hat in my life, and you never told me where you got it. I didn't get it. My brother did, and he got it from Vietnam. He was in Vietnam, including the Coochie tunnel hat that I was wearing earlier. But that one, they just gave Bibi a clock on, especially with the high potential of a lame duck admin as a whole. Kamala losing. Bibi now has 30 days to get the job done. Yeah. That sounds like you support Harris like a lib. Yeah, I don't care how it sounds. It's true. The analysis is correct. Okay. Coochie tunnel. Is it possible that Biden wants to boost Kamala's numbers with a gesture towards a ceasefire while removing any pressure to follow through while setting the deadline after the election? No. There is no reason for Biden to do this. This makes Kamala look bad. I'm still riding with Biden. I'm still going to write his name in, of course. We did this 6 months ago. U.S. official says Israel sent assurance it is using arms lawfully days before the... Yeah. This is my Turkish goat who made up Pamuk, friend of the show, pushing the state spokesperson on the humanitarian aid. Why are you waiting another 30 days to implement the law, she says. Miller says, we believe it is appropriate to give them a chance to cure the problem. It has been over a year now. Officials from this department have addressed that Israel is persistently and arbitrarily impeding aid into... If it's already doing it, why is the U.S. waiting? There are people inside this building who reached the opposite conclusion, he says. Good. Have you ever heard that when companies are about to fail, they assign a woman CEO and then say, see, she messed up? Yeah, like Twitter. I always thought that was just for corporations. I didn't know they could do this for an election. Yeah, they're doing it to the Democratic Party. That's such a funny, that is a funny take. I agree with that. They literally are just like, yeah, see, the woman did up. It's the same, dude. What was it? Linda Yaccarino or whatever, becoming the CEO of Twitter to throw the goddamn, to throw the goddamn platform in a wastebasket. Yeah, that's great.
Recipients of U.S. military assistance do not arbitrarily deny or impede the provisioning of U.S. humanitarian assistance. That's just the law, and we, of course, will follow the law. But our hope is that Israel will make the changes that we have outlined and that we have recommended, and that the result of those changes will be a dramatic...
Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Of course they're not going to do that. They've never done that. For 12 months, you haven't done that.
Dramatic increase in humanitarian assistance. Ultimately, we are focused on the bottom line here. It's just it. Humanitarian assistance had been low. The changes that we had recommended had gotten it up, and those levels have not been sustained. And so we need to see further changes by the government of Israel.
I mean, obviously the timing of this, I know you don't explicitly do politics, but there's an election coming up here. To what extent is that a factor? I mean, 30 days from now would be after the U.S. election. It's been a year since the conflict has been ongoing. The president has repeatedly warned Israel about assistance, about civilian casualties, with at best mixed results sometimes. This happened in just 30 days before the election. I mean, to what extent was the election a factor?
This is not a factor at all. The bottom line is we felt it was appropriate if we are making clear to the government of Israel that there are these changes that need to be implemented, that we give them an appropriate period of time to implement them. We didn't think it was appropriate to send a letter and just say this has to happen overnight. We give them make clear there's a short window in which we want to see changes because the humanitarian situation is so dire on the ground, but it is appropriate to give them some time to work through the different issues and find ways to get the level of trucks, get the level of food, water, medicine back up to acceptable levels. Yeah, Kamala.
Hi, Matt. So the 620I Foreign Assistance Act actually doesn't have the word arbitrarily. You say it's the law, but the NSM 20, which is a memorandum, has the word arbitrarily. So the Foreign Assistance Act says, when it's made known to the president that the government of such country prohibits or otherwise restricts directly or indirectly the transport of delivery of United States humanitarian assistance. It does not have arbitrarily. So given you are already saying humanitarian assistance is very low and putting in front of Israel a bunch of concrete measures on how to improve it, why are you waiting for another 30 days to implement the law?
Because we believe it's appropriate to give them a chance to cure the problem. And international humanitarian law does make exceptions for certain, I'll give you an example. Dual-use items is a good example. If there are dual-use items that legitimately could be used as a military purpose, Of course, governments aren't required to let those dual-use items in, which is not to say that they can use that exception as a blanket restriction on anything that can be used as a dual-use item. For example, if there are military movements happening in a certain period of time, governments can restrict the provision of humanitarian aid during that period, because obviously you wouldn't want to put humanitarian workers at jeopardy. So it is not accurate to say that there can be no restrictions. It's that those restrictions ultimately can't block civilians from getting the humanitarian access that they need. And that is what we are focused on doing. And so we think it's appropriate. Ultimately, let me just say, ultimately what we want to see here is results. This isn't about making a
Bro, you don't understand. There is dual use for the flour, okay? Dual use goods, baby. Scissors, dual use. Could be used for, could also be used to cut medical gauze, but guess what? There's dual use for medical gauze too. I feel like this community's gotten so doomer pilled. It's hard to watch y'all at this point. Man, something about like directly looking at a ongoing for 12 fucking months on end with seemingly no improvements to the living conditions of the Palestinian people as it gets worse and worse every day kind of has a doomer slant to it, don't you think? Like, my bad, bro. My bad if we're up the vibes for you. Brad Summer. What do you mean, dude? It's not only just like doomer pilled or whatever, okay? I try to do my very best in the midst of the ongoing coverage of that we are funding and facilitating. I try to do my very best to just have like a cheery approach to see the silver lining. But beyond that, like, I give liberals what they want. I give liberals the electoral calculus as well to all of this. Like, if that makes you feel bad, if that makes you feel, I don't know what to tell you, you know? Smile and dial, dude. Saying you guys are doomer pilled is pretty funny. Oh, vibe check. It's no longer Brad Summer. Do you actually think libs will implement an arms embargo? No, dude. What? No, they should have done it a million times over. Okay. Here's a good take, by the way, from the Trillbillies. Ray says, when I say the Palestinian issue is preeminent for me, I don't mean that it comes before every other issue. I mean that it is the primary contradiction around which everything else unravels. This is it, guys. This is what slavery was in the 19th century. It's the check coming due. Absolutely correct take. No, I'm not going to do his accent. Shut up. But it's correct. It is the most like obvious, glaringly obvious inconsistency that you can imagine. It goes against every single moment that America has stood tall and proud atop the mountain of empire and said, we are the preeminent defenders of the rule-based international order. Okay? It just showcases in full display that we are a bloodthirsty empire that has no issues eviscerating children, no issues eviscerating teenagers inside of a tent in a hospital, lighting them on fire. That's it. It is a wake-up call, in my opinion, for a lot of people in the Western world too. Like, they see it. They see how America's response to this is to try to pummel anyone and everyone that says, hey, this is up. It's so clear. The inconsistencies are so obvious. The inhumanity is so obvious. It is the issue. It is the issue. And in a way, it's like when people go, well, what about this? Or what about that? What about Sudan, right? Like, those are obviously massive humanitarian crises as well that countries that we back are funding and facilitating, like the UAE. But beyond that, this is a direct through line of America, what America says versus what America does. Okay? That's it. No, it's not whataboutism Andes. Like, that is a massive humanitarian catastrophe also unfolding right there. They're directly in the hands of our allies, utilizing some of the bounty that we have afforded them in terms of security contracts. The issue here, however, is that is still like at least 2 ticks removed from direct American intervention. Whereas America and Israel are like this, okay? America and Israel are like this. It's very obvious. It's like when Israel's a Palestinian child, most people recognize that it's America and that child. So what is this guy saying here? Israel should let the aid get in and them? Yes. And Israel's saying, nah, we're not even going to do that.
Rhetorical statement. It's not about making any kind of threats. It's about seeing the situation reversed. And so that the civilians who are not getting adequate access to food and medicine and other humanitarian goods today actually see, as a result of our efforts, a change in their daily lives. And that's what we're focused on achieving, and that's what we are trying to achieve through this letter.
Sure, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'll ask you again, is like, we've been at this for over a year now. You have made these warnings dozens of times, if not more, from this podium. Secretary has done it, President of the United States has done it, and yet we're here. Other outlets have reported, that Reuters has reported all the way back in April, that officials from this department have assessed in internal memos that Israel, quote, is persistently and arbitrarily
Matt Miller to baby.
aiding. So if the law is already being, like, I mean, if it's already doing it, why is the United States waiting?
So, first of all, that is not, so we've been over this before, I know, from this podium. There are people that reach that conclusion, and there are people inside this building who reach the opposite conclusion. So I think it's...
Oh, shit, dude. There's people have reached the opposite conclusion. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They're just lying. Okay, that's it. They're just lying. And it's pretty obvious that they're just lying, because virtually every, not even virtually, every single humanitarian aid organization, international institutions of justice have come to the same exact conclusion after stepping foot inside of Israel is not rendering aid to the civilian population of